And welcome again to Cottage Talk. This is Cottage Talk full time after the 1-1 draw for Fulham against Everton at Goodison Park. Very disappointing way to get a 1-1 draw in stoppage time, giving up a goal from Beto. I'll be talking about that, but I'll also be talking about how well Fulham played throughout the match. And that is the biggest thing I'm taking out of this 1-1 draw. But I'm calling this Cottage Talk full time. It is the hope that kills you with Fulham. I spoke to Tony Gold right after the match, and that's exactly what he said. Because you get so close, you get an opportunity to be on 14 points, to really be moving up the table, to be eighth, and you give up this late goal, and it is a kick in the teeth. It absolutely is. However, I've been kicked in the teeth many times watching Fulham. In fact, when I went over to England 12 years ago, I went to Reading in a 3-3 draw, and the same exact thing happened. So I'm used to it. I'm just disappointed by the nature that they got this 1-1 draw, and also by the fact that Fulham vastly outplayed Everton in a match that I thought was going to be pretty even, but Fulham by far dominated the play, created more opportunities. Yes, they had a goal disallowed. I'll be mentioning that. But overall, it's very difficult for me not to focus on the performance here, because the performance was excellent. I thought it was fantastic until you see the match out. And this is the second time this season we've seen that. We saw it against West Ham. So it's very disappointing that this has happened now again. But they've also seen a match out. So it's gone both ways for Fulham this season. So for me, this is just disappointing. I am very disappointed, but I also want to mention this because as a supporter of Fulham, I really hate when the opposition fans will look for excuses or will say this and say that after a situation like this. So I want to give credit to Everton for playing all the way to the end and Beto scoring the goal. He deserves credit for that, okay? They deserve credit for creating something at the very end. Could have been prevented by Fulham, absolutely. But I think it's fair to give them some credit as well because they played throughout the match. But if you're looking at me, anyone that watched that, they know Fulham were the better side. But again, that's not what we ultimately judge it on. You know, if we're looking at the table doesn't lie. It's a 1-1 draw. So that's where we're stuck here. But it hasn't changed at all my thoughts on this team. I still think this team's going to fight for Europe. And I know you're probably saying by watching this, well, Russ, they've dropped points against West Ham. They've dropped points now against Everton. How are they going to be able to do that? Well, there are plenty matches to go. And I also want to mention the fact that they got a 1-1 draw and two of their better players were not available. That is Joachim Andersen and Sasa Lukic. If Anderson is available, does this situation happen? Maybe not, but it did. It did happen. But my point in saying that is that I think Fulham are only going to get better, and I think they're improving as the season goes along. Their play is improving. Their passing ability is improving. How could you not see that? How do you not look at that match and see all the good things that Fulham did in this match? I know what the result is, but I'm looking back at a 1-1 draw where I thought Fulham played extremely well. And that really is something that I'm going to take out of it. I'm disappointed as anyone else, but I am encouraged by the overall play. That's just the way that I look at it. So I'm just going to share some comments, and Stefan shares this. Our defense is still suspect. I certainly understand that. And I think once Anderson's back, that will help. But we are giving up goals, especially giving up a late goal. But beyond the disallowed goals, Stefan, and what happened at the end of the match, really, did they really trouble Fulham too much? I don't think they really did. I thought Fulham did more than enough to win this match, but that's not the way things work out. So let's see what else we've got here. I've got a bunch of comments. This is from Gary Cooper. I don't see why he just can't play all the players for the full match. It's not like we're in a club competition in Europe. Too many changes. I've seen that on social media. I'm not going to disagree with that. Like I said, one thing that Marco has done, he's gone to three center backs at the end of the match to try to see it out. And unfortunately, it did not work. Let's see what else we got. This is from our friend Trevor. Hi, Russ, on the way home. Mid table again this season. I disagree, Trevor. I totally disagree. We can't see games out. Got to be crap like this. They're not crap. They're not crap, Trevor. I understand the frustration. Talk to Tony Gold. He is extremely frustrated. I'm frustrated too. But I still see this team as a team that's going to fight for Europe. I'm not changing my mind on this. There is too much talent on this team, and I think they'll add quality in January to get them over the top. But I don't see this as this is why they're not getting into Europe. I just see this as another learning curve situation that they need to figure out. And like I said, they had the West Ham one, but they've also seen matches out. So I see both sides of the coin on this. But yes, it's very disappointing. This is from Stephen Turner. I've got so many comments. Marco made awful tactical sub decisions, not just taking off attacking players and putting on defensive players at 1-0, but also timing of the subs in injury time. Just see it out. Stephen, that's what I'm talking about right now. He did make these tactical changes and it didn't work, but he's done it before and it did work. So it's really this weird thing. I see what you're saying. See the match out. Don't get so defensive. Scott Parker used to do that all the time. I'm not comparing him to Marco, to Parker, but we know what happened when you do that. Sometimes it puts on all this pressure. So I get what you're saying on that. I really do. I do understand that. And I understand the frustration. This is from our friend Black, White, and Fred. Subs killed us. We had full control until we subbed a lots of our defensive-minded players, three center backs, and all of them just looking at Beto, nodded in. And again, fair criticism, Black, White, and Fred. Complete fair criticism. Didn't see it out. Went defensive again, and it didn't work. It absolutely did not work. So I get your frustration, and like I said, I'm very disappointed as well. Here's my friend Steve Reynolds, who I talk on a regular basis. This is what Steve shares. Silva to blame. Why bring on Muniz and Cuenca? Had 2 minutes to go and subs in 94th minute. I get that. I totally get that. And I'm not going to disagree with that. And I'll be talking about that on the Cottage Talk post-match show, about the decisions that Marco made here. And then also we'll be talking about that, Tony and I, when we do our player rating show, which is on the Cottage Talk Patreon page on Monday. We'll be talking about that. So there's a lot to discuss in regards to this match. I understand that everyone's disappointed. As I said to begin the show, it is the hope that kills you. But it doesn't change how I feel about this team. I'm still backing my prediction of 7th. I'm not changing my mind on that because Fulham dominated the play. Great performance, but it is 2 points drop. So that's really the way that I look at it. But like I said, these things happen. And we are on to Brentford, and we'll see what happens. And I also want to keep in mind that what's interesting about this, watching the match and watching the matches earlier today, this is all going on for all these teams. There was all these points dropped all over the place. So does that make an excuse? No, it's not an excuse. It's just something that happened today. It was happening all over the Premier League, and it happened again to Fulham. And I was really upset that the announcers of the broadcast I watched mentioned that Fulham have not won a 5:30 start match. They've never won one, and they're saying it when it's in stoppage time. Shut the F up. Shut the F up about that. I had to hear that, and then, of course, they give up the late goal, and they still don't get that victory at that 5:30 p.m. time slot. It's just predictable. It happened, but there are some good things to take out of this, and I'm going to share them right now because Alex Iwobi scored. I thought Alex Iwobi was great. I thought Alex Iwobi played very well, took his goal very well, didn't really celebrate, obviously, a player formerly of Everton. I give him credit for the way that he treated it after that. I don't think he was being malicious at all to the Everton supporters. I thought he handled that about as well as you can. It's a difficult situation when you score a goal against a former team, but it was a great goal. So congratulations to Alex Iwobi. And honestly, Fulham played very well in the second half. If I'm looking at it, I'm just moving on to the second half. The first half I thought was pretty even. And Fulham created a few opportunities. But then you have what happened with Everton, that they hit the crossbar and then they have a goal disallowed, but it was the right call. I don't care what anyone says. So any Everton supporter that's upset about that, it was the right call. It absolutely was the right call. But after that, Fulham dominated. Fulham dominated throughout that second half, because you could hear, as we would say over here, the boo birds at Goodison Park getting very upset at Everton, the way that they were approaching the second half. And they were going long all the time, and it just went right to Leno all the time. It was actually nice to see. Leno really, it's funny because, like I said, he gives up the goal late, but there were so many opportunities where Pickford is kicking it long. It just goes right to Leno, and then we get to move up the pitch. And what is interesting is that I will say that the approach after the goal from Iwobi was to get the second goal. I truly believe it was. But they just could not get that second goal. And then he goes defensive at the end of the match. And this can happen when you go that defensive. You are bringing the pressure on, and it didn't work. And I'm going to say it right now, and no one's going to want to hear it, but if Joachim Anderson's in there, I don't think that they give up the goal. That's just my belief on that. But they did, and that's where we are. We end with a 1-1 draw, and it's disappointing. A couple other things I want to mention, and I'll be curious what people think about this, and please feel free to share your thoughts about man of the match, because I'm not going to be going much longer. But I thought Reece Nelson played very well as a sub. He's making an argument to be a starter at some point here. They really did a nice job, Everton, of keeping Adama Traore quiet, but I thought Reece Nelson was great, set up a few opportunities, and again, a quality player added to Fulham. Just keep that in mind. I thought he added something, so I want to mention that. Okay, coming up next to end the show, I'm going to talk about the move by Marco to go to 5 at the back with 3 center backs and your fullbacks, and I'll end with man of the match. If you're watching live, feel free to share your thoughts on who was man of the match. Okay. So you're at the end of the match, and next thing you know, you see Jorge Cuenca coming on with Rodrigo Muniz, and he goes 5 at the back. I'm talking about 3 center backs and the 2 full backs, and you're just bringing on pressure. And next thing you know, a couple minutes to go, you have Beto scoring. And listen, it was a well-taken goal, but I thought Fulham were ball watching here instead of really trying to stop Beto, and they get punished. It's a sucker punch. It's a complete sucker punch, because on performance alone, Fulham deserved all 3 points. But Beto scores a good header, and we walk away with a point, and that's who you are right now. Right now, Fulham are an average side. So even though I think they're going to be better than that, right now they are completely average. So they could end this weekend back at mid-table. And if they want to be better than that, they're going to have to close out these matches. Okay, so this is the second one. They will have to close this out. I agree with that. I agree with the people that's saying, well, they can't do it, so they're going to be a mid-table team. I'm not giving up my belief that this team will be way above that. Like I said, missing 2 key players against Everton, and they are minutes away from getting a big victory on the road. So for me, this team's only going to get better. The one thing that I do want to mention, I don't know if anyone noticed this watching the broadcast, is that Pereira went off. And I'm not saying he's injured, but he went off not looking that great. So this is going to be something to watch, Andreas Pereira. I haven't had a chance to hear any commentary after the match while I'm recording this. I'm recording this about an hour after the match. But that's just something to watch. And I know that he has his detractors, but he also has his fans that believe in him. So he's a 50-50 player. Either you love or you hate Andres Pereira, but that's something to watch. Before I go to the man of the match, I'm just going to share quickly my thoughts on the starting 11. So this is not the starting 11 I wanted to go with, but it actually worked. It, in my opinion, worked well. I wanted them to go with Sanderberga, Harrison Reed, and Emil Smith Rowe and drop Pereira. But to be honest with you, this actually worked. So the starting 11 I thought was effective. So I want to give Marco credit. He went with what he had done prior, except for bringing in Diop for Anderson, who was suspended for the match. So this stuff happens, but the starting 11 is what I expected it to be. And even though I wanted a little bit different, it did work. So I just want to mention that. Okay. So let's end quickly with man of the match. Like I said, if you're watching live, feel free to share your thoughts on man of the match. I'm curious what people have as man of the match. I just want to share this from Stefan. He says, Nelson was excellent. I totally agree with that. Let's see what else we got. Steve Reynolds shares positives. Berga, AP, and Tete. Jury out on ESR. Nelson, good again. Okay, very good stuff. Let's see what else we got. See, Carl says, my man of the match is Tete. Stefan says, my man of the match is Raul Jimenez. So good stuff. Very good stuff. So here is from Tommy Sparks 71 saying, toss up between Tete and Raul for me for man of the match. Worked their socks off. Deserved the win, but that's football. Disappointing and frustrating. And Tommy, I just want to say that because that's how I feel. It is football. It does happen. And I know we're all disappointed after this, but I hope after a day goes by, especially when I do my post-match show and then do the player rating show when some time has passed, that you can really look at this and see what Fulham are trying to do here. And what's interesting, I will share this, is that my co-host Tony Gold called Fulham soft, defensively soft, and I can understand that. But I can also see what they were trying to do in this match and really how they dominated the play. The passing was phenomenal at times. I hope everyone could really appreciate that because that's where we're going. That's the future of this season. If you can continue to do this, you're going to win a lot of matches. So, yes, this sucks. Yes, it hurts. But I want to also keep in mind, they didn't lose this match. They walk away with a draw. I'll ask anyone, and I think everyone would agree with me. Would you have taken a draw before the match? And I think most would have done that. Okay. So we have a couple more comments. This is from Stina 10. She says, man of the match, Raul Jimenez. Okay, this is from Black, White, and Fred. Raul, Tete, and Iwobi all play great. Too tight to call for man of the match. So I'm going to give you my man of the match. I'm going to give it to Iwobi. That's my man of the match. So I'm going with Iwobi. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk Full-Time. I don't get a chance to do this often, so I wanted to get on here. Win, lose, or draw, if I can do a show, I'm going to do it. So that's why I wanted to come on here right after the match. So anyways, my name's Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.